Good day, friends of Buzzy. I'm Dr. Amy Baxter, and today's coronavirus COVID-19 update is a very quick set of answers to, is COVID-19 less likely to kill you? There are 4 things to consider, and when someone says, look at the death rates, COVID isn't so dangerous anymore, here are the 4 things that are going on. All right, so first of all, there is something called variolation, which we've talked about in some of my other videos. Variolation is the idea that when you have a lower amount of virus, you can mount a little bit of an immune response that may not even make you sick, but it protects you. If you have a lower amount of virus and you get sick, you're likely to get less sick. This is why we're doing all of that nasal irrigation stuff. If you're in Augusta, Georgia, I have a randomized controlled trial with nasal irrigation going on right now for people that test positive. Because the idea is, even if you're positive, you still have some virus that hasn't yet gone into the cells. It's hanging out on top of your ACE2 receptors. So if you can flush it out, you're just lowering the amount of viral load, we call it, that your body has to respond to. So number one, not necessarily in order, but one reason we're seeing fewer severe cases is because of variolation. We have more people wearing masks now, so we have lower amounts of virus that are getting people sick, and it's making them less sick overall. Second thing, we're definitely having a broader spread to younger people. So the fact that younger people are getting the virus means that they're less likely to have the underlying conditions, and they're often less likely to have the severe immune response that's killing people. Third thing, this immune response, we are getting better at treating it. So the fact that we know that we can give Decadron when someone's on oxygen, the fact that we can give IL-1 or IL-6 blockers, these are injections that people take for rheumatoid arthritis and other kind of overreactive immune system diseases, we're giving those to people with coronavirus now. And so these COVID treatments that are adopted from other places, those are things that are more common now, and because we have randomized controlled trials, doctors feel more comfortable using them. Famotidine, that's one that we've talked about before. That's another over-the-counter, not expensive, generic medication that's been proven to reduce severity. So we are definitely seeing that. That said, if you are not wearing a mask, if you still have the same underlying conditions, you're still at risk of death. we still have a 23% death rate for people over the age of 85 that catch this. We definitely need to hold out for the vaccine, and we definitely need to keep distancing. Because the other really big thing to consider is that if you get coronavirus and it settles in, 10% of those people who are COVID positive go on to have long-term syndrome or long-haul syndrome. You've probably heard of fibromyalgia. You've heard of people that have chronic fatigue syndrome. Everything we see now is pointing to the concept that people who get COVID-19 are at risk of whatever the immune system reaction is that can cause chronic fatigue. Physicians, surgeons, lawyers, essential workers, it doesn't matter what your job is or what underlying condition you're in. About 10% of people in all of the different developed countries where this is being tracked are getting this long haul syndrome with clouded thinking, with fatigue, with body aches, nasty stuff. And so even if you are not worried about dying, we can't forget the fact that there is the long haul syndrome. Finally, kind of this, that you still don't want to get this virus concept, we are still seeing strokes. We know now that anti-coagulation for people in the hospital is critically important. We're starting anti-coagulation early for people who are in the hospital with severe enough COVID to be in the hospital. Thus, we're managing that. It doesn't change the fact that the risk of clots, the risk of strokes, the risk of paralysis, the risk of all of these things is still there. We're managing it better, but it's not gone. Thus, in summary, We are still having deaths from COVID, but because we're getting lower viral loads, because we are treating it better, and because right now, on average, most people getting it are younger than older, the death rates are definitely going down, and that's awesome. But you don't want to be a long hauler. Do what you got to do. Stay away from people. Hold up just a little bit longer, and we can get through this. Now, all of that said, we are doing a randomized controlled trial of nasal irrigation in COVID positive people 55 and up in Augusta, Georgia. So if you get tested in Augusta and you're 55 and up and you're positive, then we could give you a call saying you're eligible for the trial. You get free nasal irrigation stuff, you get a gift card, and you get followed so we can see whether or not doing nasal irrigation really does keep people out of the hospital. So please, if you're in Augusta, Georgia, or you know somebody who's getting tested, let them know. And if you test positive, definitely sign up for the study so we can get you some free nasal irrigation stuff. That's my story. Thanks for tuning in. Until next week, avoid catching COVID. And I'm very hopeful that it's going to be fine.